Welcome to Florida Focus, a college football podcast. My name is Brandon. I am a lifetime Seminole fan.
And I am Chris, and I am an impatient Gator fan. That was tough to say.
And we are putting aside our differences as rivals to bring you the fantastic world of college football throughout the Sunshine State. Sorry, sometimes your adjective there just throws me off. But yes, the Gators are idle this week and have no game upcoming. We'll talk about Florida State's huge win. The other games happen around the state, a couple of shockers. But I'll give you a couple minutes, Chris, just to give an update. What have you heard about the Gators? How are you feeling as a fan? What update do you have from Gainesville?
So it's kind of like this is as Gator fans in Gainesville. It's kind of like that scene in Top Gun where Tom Cruise Maverick says, "I'm going to hit the brakes and he'll fly right by me." Mm-hmm. The football program has just hit the brakes on everything. And everyone's just flying right by us right now because there was a breakout within the football program, including Dan Mullen. He got the virus, including two coaches. I think 21. I don't know if it's total people or players, and I think it was players, 21 players. And I guess they put them below the amount they could play a game. I think that's 50 is the minimum. And so they just shut everything down, and they had to shift some things. The Mizzou game got pushed back to the 31st, so no game this week again. And so we continue to wait, and we're getting impatient. But I think the SEC was fair. So what that did was now our bye week right before Georgia went away. So the SEC, in fairness, they moved Georgia's Kentucky game to that weekend, to Halloween weekend, so they wouldn't have a bye week.
Gotcha.
So I think it was kind of fair. If you're a Georgia fan, you're probably really ticked, and I don't think you're wrong. I get it, but I think it's just a fair thing to do. So interesting to see. I hope, selfishly as a Gator fan, that this is it for us. We got ours out of the way, and we can continue to play. But that does mean we'll be playing, I think, 7 games in a row without a bye. But we had a 2-week bye, which I said this off air. I think X's and O's wise, it might be good to reset. Hey, we had 3 games. Now we have 2 weeks to look at film, especially on the defensive side, to figure out some stuff and tweak some things. Mm-hmm. Now the football stuff, they're not meeting and practicing in these 2 weeks, but I know that they're still meeting via Zoom and looking at film and all that stuff. So I kind of a little bit worry that it's going to mess up the rhythm of the offense. There is some hesitation there, but I do trust Mullen because that is his forte, and Trask, and we have a lot of playmakers on offense. So I'm not too worried, but I think it's going to be good just to reset everything, get all the defensive players healthy. Give Grantham and them more time to figure out who should be where, and kind of do something to fix the defense. But Gator fans, we're waiting. We're maybe patiently waiting. I'm impatiently waiting, but we're waiting nonetheless.
Yes, indeed. And as I mentioned, and everybody knows by now, the Big Ten starts this weekend, and they give no leeway for something like this to happen. The Pac-12 isn't even starting yet. I think the Mountain West is. So we can count our blessings that this is happening when it is now. And yeah, it's a little bit of shuffling there, but for some reason, something came up in my mind. The SEC several years ago, Alabama, just everyone had it out for them. And so 8 teams that they played out of a 12-game schedule scheduled their bye week before them. And the SEC said, no, we're not doing that again. And as good as Alabama is, of course, that's unfair to anybody. That's probably still a year they won the title, so I don't really know what mattered. But the idea sits that that's probably why they tried to be fair with the Georgia-Kentucky game and all that stuff. So, all the best. I agree that generally the off time will affect the offense more because we see it in bowl layoffs, but usually that's a month long. So this, 2 weeks, we'll kind of see what happens.
Yeah, but it stinks. It really does. But I mean, obviously, You think big picture. You just hope people are healthy.
Sure.
And I'm not too worried about the players themselves because they're in peak physical condition and they're not the target that you worry about, the age bracket that you worry about. But obviously, they might, if they have it, they go home to someone that's older or could be compromised. So that's what you really worry about.
Sure. Just at this point, just stay on campus.
Right.
Okay. So yes, all the best, and this is what we know as of Tuesday night of this week. So if anything changes, look on our Twitter feed, I guess. All right. So we'll look forward to that happening soon. One game that did happen over this weekend, Florida State did exactly what everyone thought they would do. They beat a top 5 team. I'm just kidding. No one expected this to happen. FSU at home knocks off UNC, the Tar Heels, and I'll just give a couple quick high points at this game. When I looked back at the Notre Dame film, I was like, well, this team doesn't look like the same Florida State team in the first 3 weeks. And then this team looked like a completely different one altogether. Mm-hmm. It's clear that Jordan Travis is a run threat, and they're designing deep passes off of that. The man only completed 8 out of 19 of his passes. You would never think that'd be enough to win a game, but out of those 8 passes, he completed for 191 yards.
Yeah.
So it's clear that they're so afraid of the threat of the run from him that you have to skill for it. And he did rush for 107 yards, which that's close to a school record for a quarterback. It has to be top 10. I'd have to look it up specifically, but man, what a performance. And this is the defense I was expecting this entire year. They finally showed up. Now, the second half, they allowed a lot of drives that ended in points. Why UNC kept going to Asante Samuel Jr.'s side, I don't know. Eventually, in the second half, they kind of figured out not to do that. But Florida State played aggressive, and then more aggressive on top of that. Like, they really wanted it. So, Marvin Wilson gets another. I mean, we have 2 block punts in this game. Gonna quote it again, Chris. 93% of the time you block a punt, you win a game. I believe it was Urban Meyer that said that, right?
I was thinking that the other day. I don't know if it's. I think it increases your chances of winning by I don't think because you can block a punt when you're down, by 30 points. But I think he was saying.
Okay.
I think it increases your chances significantly, like 80-90%. You have a better chance of winning if you do that.
That's
but
great.
Yes.
And we got it twice this game. Wow. So that's something that continues to shine. If you take out, let me put it this way. If you put the Georgia Tech and UNC performances on special teams, you look like the best special teams in the nation. There weren't any really with the Miami Notre Dame stretch necessarily, but 5 block kicks on the year, that's great. Keep it up.
Yep.
Rushing attack is there. Go ahead. I was going to say, the atmosphere was great. Florida State came to play. I'll wait for the opportunities on the second half, but 31 points and aggressively trying to score with less than 2 minutes left, going into the locker room, fantastic.
Yeah. This game, I should have gone with my gut. And I told you right before, when we did the podcast last week, I said I almost pulled the trigger on Florida State pulling the upset, but the Terry injury made me back off on that.
Mm-hmm.
Should have stuck with the gut because they pulled it off. They really did, and the atmosphere was pretty good. It was really good, and everything went right in the first half. Everything, from the pick six, the block, the blocks there, and everything was just rolling for them. The second half, not so much, but it kind of reminds me, the first half at least, reminds me of Tennessee and Florida 2018, I believe, in Knoxville.
Okay.
That game, everything. We got all the breaks. Obviously, we were the better team, but anytime Tennessee did anything positive, the next play, we did something even better. So that first half of the game kind of had that feel like no matter what North Carolina did, they took one step forward. Florida State pushed them 2 steps back.
Hmm.
And, I mean, it was just rolling for them. Obviously, you can get to the second half in just a second here. But like you said, Jordan Travis, they're a different team with Jordan Travis. And nothing to take away. I'm not going to take anything away from Florida State, but I think North Carolina was a little overranked
Sure.
at that number 5 spot. But you can say that they were the better team, not that night, but I think they're just in general they're the better team. But they're not like going to the playoffs or anything like that. But Florida State, to their credit, they did not care about the number that was next to North Carolina. They didn't care about the talent. They just worried about themselves. And you kind of saw from the Jacksonville State game to the progression of the Notre Dame game, even though they lost, they looked good doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it finally comes to fruition here against North Carolina.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that the squads on both sides of the ball, really all 3 facets, that have just taken steps forward. That is so great to see, and it finally came to fruition. That's really good. No, I think everybody can probably agree North Carolina a little higher than they should have been. I keep reminding people this team finished 7-5 last year, so let's not go too crazy. Now Sam Howell showed a lot of improvement, but they haven't played with a lot of their teams. The defense was dinged up with injuries and had a lot of guys out with COVID, especially in the secondary, which is honestly why we're able to get deep passes. I don't think that's the case when they're full strength, to be honest. No, they did give up a lot of big plays to a lot of teams like Virginia Tech, but to us, for them to give it up in the air was the most surprising. On the ground, we're probably going to get some more of that. 10, 15, 20-yard chunks. But the deep passes, that's what normally UNC is not going to allow.
Right. Yeah. And Travis was, like you said, only 8 completions, but his legs really just messed with North Carolina. That threat of him running. And I think what is different with him is that when things break down on the line, he seems more comfortable with it than Blackman. I think Blackman just seemed to be used to the pressure to where, like, I got to fall down now because I'm going to be about to get sacked. And it seemed like he welcomed it a little bit because he is more of an athletic guy and can run out of the pocket.
It's like Jordan Travis doesn't know anybody. He doesn't know to be scared of the offensive line being bad.
And you can even have a good offensive line. And I think Blackman is just so used to it, conditioned to fall down, like to any pressure, I'm going to get sacked. And Jordan Travis is like, I don't know any better, so I'm okay with this. And I think some of obviously they did a good job of tweaking the offense to get him to quarterback design runs, which is smart. And this is what I know a lot of Florida State fans, and I was saying it earlier in the season too, you've got to switch things up because it's just not working. And they listened, and it's working out for them, at least for this game.
They owe us all the credit.
Yes, yeah, I know. I know they listen to the coaching staff listens to this podcast.
Absolutely.
And you're welcome. So there you go.
Absolutely. I think that probably wraps up the positive part. So positive opportunities. There's a few actually. As a general observation for the season, Chris, Florida State is actually really not scoring that many points on offense. Notre Dame, what did we score? 26, and 10 of that was off turnovers. So you minus that at 16. In this game, we had a pick 6. We had a blocked punt, which we scored in one play afterwards, 25-yard run. That's 14. So that's 17 points outside of that. There's room for improvement there. Yeah. Now, do we want to keep dominating special teams? Of course. But there's going to be times it's not going to happen. People are going to figure it out. It's probably not a safe formula to rely on it to score. It's worked out a couple of times, and we're getting pretty good at it. But you want the offense to be able on their own to score more than 17-ish.
Right.
So that's what happened here. Now it's really because of when we scored all of it that it just deflated North Carolina. You could tell we were up 24-0, and then 31-7 at half. They had to completely, I don't know, they had to completely abandon the run, but they essentially had to go with a passing offense heavy the rest of the game, which Sam Howell felt comfortable doing. Yeah. But then you take away their 2 biggest threat with their running backs who are just dominant. You saw in the first quarter just how much they can run on people. And that was with Florida State, who at their best has NFL talent, and these guys were just running all over them.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing they had to start passing the ball out of the backfield in the second half. So anyway, Second half points. I'm always been big on that. This time we scored 0.
Yeah.
We got lucky that it didn't matter. Missed field goals with 2 of them. Those were backbreakers. So as good as we are on special teams inflicting pain, we inflicted it on ourselves. I was kind of thinking like missed kicks are contagious. So when UNC's kicker missed one, I was like, oh, he's going to miss one too. And sure enough, we did. Yeah. That was frustrating.
I bet it was. I was thinking. I'm thinking like every Florida State fan. Although you guys are excited, I bet you're thinking the second North Carolina scored that first touchdown in the third quarter. Here we go again. Here we go again. The classic Florida State blown lead, right? Mm-hmm. And it was looking like that. And I was thinking, I was pretty sure North Carolina, the way that they were playing the second half, was going to go down and score something.
Yep.
Whether it's a field goal or touchdown. I just like the way it's going. So I was really kind of shocked that they sputtered out there at the end there, dropped those two passes on third and fourth down.
Yep.
But it was looking like a classic Florida State game that we've seen the last couple years. Mm-hmm. But to Florida State's credit, they did not allow North Carolina to score, and they got the victory.
Absolutely. Well, and there's a couple of points, especially in the third quarter, where this game should have been over. We come out, second half, drive down first and goal at the 2-yard line.
Yeah.
So he comes up short. You're like, okay, we're going up 38-7, and then, heck, we may be able to put in our backups. As crazy as that might have sounded. Yeah. Nope, there's that Florida State team I'm used to seeing, the guys that mess up a lot. So let's go ahead and create a personal foul. Let's back ourselves up, and let's miss a field goal. So then that just starts to give UNC hope. A very dangerous team. Like I said, fortunately, I had to start passing on us, and like I told you earlier, Miko Dotson finally got some playing time. I forgot to mention him last week. He played against Notre Dame as well. Florida Atlantic transfer, right? Led the nation in interceptions last year. So I knew he'd get some playing time this season. So that last drive, what do? They start to pick on him. They get a pass interference call. And then second down, they go deep again. Dotson is... Okay, so Chris, I'm just going to say this. This was the call on the field. There was no call. All right.
Yeah.
What the casual observer will see is that Miko Dotson had part of either his undershirt or his jersey.
Yep.
And was kind of tugging on it. And he had about 6 inches of cloth nearly ripped off. And, hey, no flag. So I was like, okay, well, that's interesting. Then third down they drop, then fourth down they drop, and then Florida State hangs on to win, takes a knee. So, got to clean up the secondary. That's say all that to say that.
Yeah.
Special teams, maybe go to Growth House. I don't know. It's just like we can't buy a bucket with kickers after Roberto Aguayo. He was like the oasis in the middle of these other kickers where you're like, okay, we had some really good ones, and all of a sudden we're just back down to like, this isn't Florida State standard. This isn't McPherson. We would love to have a guy like that, but allowing them to kind of come back in the defense, getting shaken up in the second half, got to kind of work on that. But those were some of my observations on things they can improve on.
Yeah, I hope that going forward they focus more on the first half momentum and not the second half, because I mean, not scoring a point in the second half, that's not good. But it's good for them, and they beat a team that they should have lost to by all accounts. They were better that night. Pretty good atmosphere. Felt kind of like college football again, like real college football. Not this weird cardboard cutouts. So, but it's I guess a perfect scenario where you got the victory, you did a lot of great things, but there's a lot of stuff still that you can work on and fix and tweak. But it's easier to do that after a victory. Yeah,
absolutely. They say sometimes you learn more from losing, and I think that's what Florida State did the last 3 games ish. Yeah. Or the 3 losses this season, I should say. So otherwise, just some casual observations. Still got to work on the masks and distancing in the stands, Florida State. Yeah. Not 100% on that. Still kind of disappointed. Yep. It had bright spots, but we need to figure that out. We're going to have to figure out some kind of long-term plan for Jordan Travis getting hurt.
Yeah.
If you're going to run a guy 16 times, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
He's got a wrist, a shoulder, an ankle. He's kind of been 80-ish% since he came from Louisville. So got to figure out something sustainable because it was clear late in the game he was just getting exhausted. And he either needs to get conditioning better or we're going to have to maybe 3 or 4 times a game when he wants to run, he needs to hand it off. Something like that.
His style, although it's tough to defend against, it can definitely take a toll on him throughout the season. So maybe, I don't know, maybe a series just to put Blackman in, or not the whole game, but put him in just to give him a breather or something like that, different package. But just something to think about. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. And I mean, you can kind of figure that. I mean, Florida with Tim Tebow kind of figured a way to make that work. So, maybe learn from them. Just some fun stats here, Chris. Our leading receiver only had 2 catches. That was Ontario Wilson and Keyshawn Hilton.
Yeah.
2 each. Daniel is like a backup tight end, and he kind of caught that pass off of the fake QB sneak run.
Right.
When we were inside our own 10. That was really smart. What a play call there to get 36 yards. And then Ontario Wilson had that really long catch that I think his was the catch that he steps out at the 4 instead of going to the end zone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just it's a game of inches, man. Like if that goes to the house and then first drive of the third quarter we score, we get close to blowing out UNC. Instead we settle for missed field goals or we just settle for a field goal. I can't remember how that other drive ended, but it's just that kind of stuff happens. But the trade-off was that by inches, UNC's receivers dropped passes that would have kept the drive alive to win the game. So I'll take it.
Yeah, definitely take it. Feel good. You should feel good.
Yeah. It was clear early UNC was ready for this game. I think on the first drive, Sam Howell had a design run. He just literally shoved Asante Samuel down.
Right.
I mean, he was very aggro about it. And, hey, good for him because we were bringing the heat too.
Yeah, once you started blocking kicks, and that pick 6 was just that. You can see that hurt him. That really hurt him. Yeah.
Yep.
Good. All right, moving on over to Miami. And Hurricanes have a bounce-back game against Pitt. And Pitt gave them all that they could, but Miami was just too much for them. They were kind of going back and forth the first half, but Miami was scoring touchdowns and Pitt was scoring field goals. And but then Derek King with 4 touchdown passes, I think was the story there. And I think it's interesting that Brevin Jordan doesn't play, but the backup tight end gets 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So maybe they just like throwing it to the tight end, regardless who it is. But yeah, they're just too much for Pitt. Pitt, like we said, they're a tough team. They're always going to be a tough team. But good job on the Hurricanes responding and getting a victory over the Panthers.
Sure. And the Panthers just coming off their first loss of the season, and they showed up. Now, they didn't have their main quarterback, Pickett, and turns out I didn't know this. He was the leading passer in the nation as far as yards. So he was a bigger part of their offense than I realized. So I knew this was going to be a struggle. They still kept with the passing attack, but it just, like you said, field goal to touchdown wasn't enough. Derek King, not a huge rushing day here. Enough to kind of keep drives alive and to keep the defense on their heels, but he only had 32 yards this time. And I don't know, maybe they're trying to slow that down, give him a break. Like you said, the tight ends throwing to them kind of makes up for that. You get that middle threat, so you don't really need to go deep a lot. Miami rebounds nicely at home against a pretty good Pitt team.
Yeah, and I think the stat of the day, the Pitt had 22 yards rushing. Now, the quarterback has negative 28, so off of sacks, but still 22 yards rushing. You're not going to win many games doing that.
Very tough.
Yeah,
you can't keep possession.
Right. So, Hurricanes get the bounce back.
Very good. The team that was looking for the bounce back harshly was UCF, and against Memphis, Chris, they fall just short. The Knights fall 50-49. Is there ever going to be a low-scoring Memphis UCF game?
Goodness. That was a fun game to watch. You got to admit, even if you're a Knight fan, it was still an entertaining game.
Yeah.
And there were several times where I was watching it in the second half, and I was like, "Oh, UCF scored. They're going to put them away now." And I even, at one point in the fourth, I turned away to a different game because I thought UCF was pulled away. And I just flipped back to see, and Memphis is within 3 or something like that. But crazy, crazy game, and to end the way it did, missing that field goal. That's a tough one.
I have never seen, and I'm not exaggerating here, Chris, both teams completely abandoned special teams.
Yeah.
Memphis in the third quarter went for a 4th and 1 from their own 18.
Yeah.
After the third quarter, they just stopped kicking extra points. They went for 2 every time.
That was weird.
I think both teams got their first punt like late third, early fourth quarter. I mean, just non-existent. Now, UCF's kind of been doing this. Heupel is just adamant. If it's 4th down, offense is rolling, let's just go for it. Mm-hmm. Doesn't tend to work out a whole lot. In fact, probably the one that I point to the most is they had 4th and goal inside the 10, and they don't kick a field goal, and they go for a touchdown and don't get it. Mm-hmm. That night, those points would have been nice at the end of the game, I'm assuming.
Right.
And you see the decisions like that the entire season. You're like, that kind of hurt the team. But yeah, just crazy back and forth. I mean, UCF, here I go again with my second half points, at 22 in the second half, 27 in the first half. So they're pretty much keeping pace. Heck, your quarterback set a school record, 601 passing yards. Marlon Williams had 13 catches.
Yeah.
I don't know what else you can ask of your guys.
So to that, Memphis has 2 guys go over 100 yards receiving. Well, UCF just puts up 3 guys that go over 100 yards receiving. Williams almost goes 200.
Yeah. I mean,
nuts.
How many points do you have to score?
The real question.
Yeah.
This is the real question, though. With this loss, does UCF have to split the national championship this year?
Oh gosh.
Or how does that work out? I don't know what if they if the Knights could just let us know what they plan on doing with the national championship. Now, that's my bitter Florida fan.
Okay. All right. Got it.
But so, are they are they tied now with the best team in Florida? How does that work now? I'm not sure. Anyways, if the Knights fans can get back to me on that one. Sorry. That's my Florida fan jab for the day. Moving along.
Yeah, it's a little bit concerning, right? For any Knight fan out there to see your defense not playing like complementals. You know, they don't have to be the best defense. They have to play where they turn over the ball, they bend, don't break. You can give up 35 a game, and most of the time you're going to be good. Mm-hmm. If you just continue to let things like this slip away, it's going to be a long season. I mean, Memphis is good. Tulsa is good, but not as good.
Right.
And right now they're hungry for a win, and they got Tulsa coming up. Better right the ship. And better do it quick.
Yeah, and I mean, I as a Gator fan this year, usually not the case, but this year I sympathize with or empathize with the Knights because, man, that offense, if your quarterback has dropped 600 yards, you should be winning easily.
Yeah.
You should be winning easily. But I feel you on that one because ours put up a lot of yards too, and we still couldn't get a victory. So, yeah, it's frustrating. It's very frustrating, and it has to be for the Knights. Yeah. Seeing so much talent on one side, the other side is letting them down again.
I was thinking toward the end of this game, Memphis was down by 5. Is my math right there? Yep. Got 2 minutes left, first and goal. UCF had 2 timeouts. You know what I was thinking? I was like, Florida flop?
There we go.
I was like, knowing Memphis and the way that game is, they would have dove down at the 1 or taken a knee.
Yeah.
To make them use their timeouts. But even when Memphis scored to go ahead with like minute 20 left, I wasn't worried. I was like, UCF's going to get in position. I'm a little worried about trotting out the kicker because he hasn't kicked the entire game.
Right.
Turns out that was pretty justified. And I was like, they didn't take enough shots at the end zone. really, before they settled for that field goal try. In fact, 4th and 2 with about 30 seconds left, I might have gone for it, to be completely honest. But I don't have Josh Heupel's salary, so.
True, that's why they're asking him to call plays. And
not me. I mean, they listen to the show, clearly, but
right. We know that's the truth.
Different things. So, pretty bad loss. I think this was just a Silverfield, the new coach at Memphis, was with this staff under Norvell forever. And Memphis was just sick and tired of losing to UCF. So they came out today and they said, we're going to do whatever it takes. And if we have to lose by going for 2 every time and not punting and going for it from 4th and 1 from our own 18, then so be it. But we're not going to back down to these guys. And you knew eventually they'd break through. I really didn't see it coming this time.
Yeah. I figured they could put up a fight, but I really thought, and I was way off. I was way off because I thought UCF was going to win walking away. That wasn't the case.
First half, it kind of looked like it. But, pretty frustrating. But, I mean, offensively, it's probably the best performance you're going to get all year. And this might be the best game in the American Conference the entire season. It was good. But UCF comes on the wrong end of it.
Yep. And speaking of coming on the wrong end of it, let's go back to the South Florida Bulls, who know a thing or two about losing football games.
Oh, man.
Yeah, they lose heartbreaker to Temple.
They sucked me in, Chris. I'm not going to lie. I was really rooting for them at the very end to come back and pull this out.
Man, they gave Temple everything they had, but just could not pull it out. They had a chance to go for 2 to tie the game late, and I just thought that was, I don't know about you, but that play call, besides a screen pass on 3rd and 15, one of my least favorite play calls is run heavy to the short side of the field. Oh, man, that just it angers me. If you're going to – when you're on, like, say, they were on the left hash, and they direct snap to, I guess, their backup quarterback, the running quarterback, and just, student body left, which is, I think, a good play sometimes. But when you're on the short side of the field, don't run everybody there because guess what? That place gets real small real quick because when you have bodies, they have bodies. And, that frustrates me.
Good point.
But that's South Florida for you, though.
What I was surprised at in this one was how high scoring it was, especially given the fact that there were so many turnovers.
Yes.
USF lost 3 fumbles and threw 2 picks, 5 turnovers, and they still managed to score 37, which means Temple's defense is just hot garbage.
Yeah.
And I know Temple's had a lot of turnover. I mean, they had Jeff Collins, who's coached Georgia Tech, and then they actually hired Manny Diaz, and then that got yanked because Miami bought him back, basically, as a head coach. And so they haven't had a lot of stability. But I think Jeff Scott knew what you and I knew, which is I have to sell out this game. I have to do all I can to win this game here. And, they kind of showed up. And like I said, they kind of surprised me with everything they had. They still keep running forward, which is fine. He's probably your best option. And just they don't have any better than McLeod. It turns out all the guys they brought in to give him a challenge just haven't added up.
Right.
And here you sit, and like you said, you kind of shoot yourself in the foot with ball control, bad play call selection, and it all adds up.
Yeah, and like you're saying, the ball control with like 10 minutes left in the fourth, you have the lead, and you fumble an exchange between the quarterback and running back, and Temple picks it up and goes for a touchdown, giving them the lead. But they had every chance to win, and I'll give them credit. They were in it. But, just what is it? Pulling a victory out of the clutches of defeat, or defeat out of the clutches of victory. I think what it is.
They did the second one.
Yes, I know one of those terms is real funny, but I don't know. You're the smart one.
So I mean, maybe the Bulls kind of learned they had a pretty balanced pass rush attack in this one. Maybe they figure out a way to kind of improve upon that. Just the schedule the rest of the way just looks pretty tough.
Yeah, brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal. But, hey, we got some Florida teams winning, though, so that's good.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not going to be South Florida.
Yep. FIU Charlotte ended up not getting played, so sorry for you guys that were betting on the game after we gave your predictions. Our apologies there. You should have bet on Clemson scoring 73 against Georgia Tech because everyone saw that coming. By the way, that's the worst ACC loss in conference history.
Really?
Yeah, just a little tidbit for you.
So it's just crazy going back to Florida State. They lose to that Georgia Tech team.
Hard to believe.
But then beat North Carolina.
Yep.
So
makes all the sense in the world, right? I honestly think this is one of those years of the ACC Wheel of Destiny. You're going to have Clemson up there. Obviously, they're almost untouchable. And then everyone else is just going to beat each other up.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was thinking exactly about that.
Well, yeah, the weird part is, Chris, is that Florida State's in that mix now, which is weird to think about from where we were the title season, right? In the playoff, winning the last BCS title. And then here we are scrapping to go 500. It is really weird, the dramatic change. Yeah.
I was thinking about that, like the ACC's getting back to the crazy ways, but then I was also thinking the SEC needs to borrow that wheel because, I mean, you see Alabama and Georgia are pretty good, but every game is totally different. Florida, LSU, who are they?
Mississippi State.
Who is Arkansas? Who is Mississippi State? Nobody knows their team in the SEC.
Who's Missouri? You had South Carolina knocking off Auburn, Kentucky beating Tennessee. I mean, just nothing makes sense.
Blowing out Tennessee. Like, every game I'm watching the SEC, you don't know. Like, you know Alabama's going to bring it. Even Georgia struggled with Arkansas for a half.
Yeah.
The air raid that was Mike Leach and Mississippi State Bulldogs last A game breaks every record ever, and then nothing. Puts 2 against Kentucky. Florida finally gets everything clicking on offense, and then now this is the year where we forget how to play defense. The SEC as a whole is just turning into the Big 12. Can we borrow that wheel? Because I think we're gonna.
I think you already are secretly in the back room spinning it. That's what I.
Yes, we are. I was thinking, and it was funny. I'm glad you said that because this week I was like, I remember when the ACC had that Wheel of Destiny. The SEC needs it because we are just. I mean, obviously, I think that's this college football this year in general. It's just wide open and upside down and wacky. So wacky. I love it, though. I love every second of the craziness.
It is crazy. That's the only way to describe it for sure. Really weird season.
Yeah.
So let's continue that weird season, Chris. Let's go into next week. Yes. We're entering week 8, and some conferences are just starting to play. But got a couple of Friday night games, do we?
Yeah.
Why don't we start there? We'll just go chronologically if you're cool with that.
Okay, yeah. Switch it up on me, but it'll work.
Okay. We got the FIU Panthers at home hosting Jacksonville State. What you got?
Jacksonville State, the last time that we actually saw them play Florida State earlier and gave them a half. FIU still looking for a victory. Mm-hmm. Only played 2 games, though, and they're favored by 10.
That's what I saw.
But, you know, I almost want to pick Jacksonville State for the upset. I think I'm going to do it.
You're doing it.
I'm going to go Jacksonville State. Just what I saw from the only thing I have from them is the Florida State game. And, you know, we still know how good Florida State is because every week's different. But I don't have any confidence in FIU right now. I mean, they lost to Middle Tennessee State.
It's a pretty bad one.
Who was, so that was their only victory at that time. So I'm going to go Jacksonville State with the upset.
Interesting. I'm not that bold. I'm still going to go the Panthers to win here. I do think Jacksonville State will probably cover the spread. Given they have really good quarterback play, and we still don't know if FIU can get that going. They're more of a rushing team, so which means they'll probably slow down the game enough, get enough rushing yards to keep them on their toes. Again, with the Week 7 USF mentality, maybe FIU sells out. If I got a trick play or two and I'm Bushnell Davis, I'm going to throw it out there. And, you know, they're going to figure it out. They've had some time to kind of sit out.
Right, true.
So you're not crazy, though. Jacksonville State did look pretty good against Florida State. They definitely got off to a really good start. They led 21-7 in the second quarter.
Yeah.
But there is a difference. They are Div 2, even though that FIU is kind of in the bottom Conference USA group of 5. I still think the talent level's more, especially given that they're in Miami.
Yeah.
But I would not be surprised, Chris, if you're correct. I'm just not going to do it. I'll take the Panthers.
Okay. Yeah, I will say having a Friday night kind of definitely gives an advantage to the home team typically, the Thursday night and Friday night games typically. But, we just talked about this season being crazy. Why not? So, why not?
Yeah.
So give me Jacksonville State.
All right.
Gamecocks, right?
Yes.
Gamecocks. I remembered. So.
In Jacksonville, Alabama.
Yes. All right. So, the other Friday night game, we got, South Florida and Tulsa?
Yeah. Tulsa is going down to Tampa.
Yeah.
Going to play across the street from the Rays, who are in the World Series. And across from the Stanley Cup, which was just won. Tampa Bay's trying to be the city champions this year.
So
that will not include the Bulls.
They're the black sheep of Tampa Bay sports right now.
Everyone just denies they exist. They got other things going on. I think it's pretty easy to say Tulsa wins this one pretty easily. They have, the high coming off of the UCF win. They've shown that they played Oklahoma State really tough. And I kind of like what the Golden Hurricane has. They're going to be pretty competitive, it looks like, in the American this season. They were supposed to play Cincinnati. That would have been kind of an interesting game. That would end up getting postponed, but those 2 games for Tulsa are all we have to go off of so far.
Right.
And they look good in both. So I'm going to take Tulsa to win here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a no-brainer. Like you said, they're 1-1, beat a top team like UCF, and almost beat Oklahoma State I think it's at Oklahoma State. So, from what we've seen of them, they're impressive, tough team. South Florida, USF, not impressive. So, yeah, Tulsa all the way.
Absolutely. We'll get to Florida State now, I guess.
Okay.
So, traveling to Louisville, coming off of a huge win. Louisville, what happened, guys?
Yeah.
You came into the season, you beat Western Kentucky by 14. Not a hugely impressive win, but everyone's high on you. Satterfield is the App State coach. I even said it myself. I ended up being terribly wrong. I said they're going to match up with Miami week 2. The winner gets 3rd place in the ACC. The loser gets 4th. And here we are. Louisville's still not won a conference game.
Yeah.
1 in 3? Is that where they're at? Yeah. I believe so. Or is it 1 and 4?
1 and 4.
Yeah. The worst loss is obviously Georgia Tech. We have something in common there. Hey, we're blood brothers. Lost to Georgia Tech. They got it somehow. But they actually started that game really well against the Yellow Jackets, and in the second half, they just like us, something happened.
Yeah.
And their skill players are just not doing enough to get things done. They played really, really well against Notre Dame. They lost 12-7 by limiting possessions, and really holding Notre Dame, who Florida State just lost to the previous week and looked decent doing. So maybe Notre Dame's a little bit in that catching that wheel of destiny, at least the tangentials of the rubber. But Chris, I'm not kidding. I'm not exaggerating. Louisville's lost 3 in a row. They break the streak. Louisville's going to win this game.
Really?
FSU is going to go back on the road. They're going to have lost some energy. They're going to get some ACC jitters. I don't think the defense that we saw is going to sustain the entire year. I think that the offense is going to start to show cracks. I mentioned the points off of turnovers. That just can't happen every week. I think Louisville wins.
Wow. Yeah, so they looked pretty good. I mean, the record doesn't show it, but they looked pretty good against Notre Dame, like you were saying. The spread is Louisville by 4.5, and this is a tough one to call. But and I hear what you're saying, but I think Florida State rides that momentum into Louisville and somehow gets a victory. I think they're very evenly matched teams. but I think Florida State just has that momentum right now. They're a different team. They've got a spark. It's not just Jordan Travis. The defense is showing up. The special teams outside the kickers are showing up. So I'm going to say Florida State wins this one by 6. So I'm going to say 27-21.
And I think that momentum-wise and numbers-wise, Florida State's turned a corner, and you have every reason to pick that. And I'm really just going off of just some gut here. I'm not going to lie. It's not found in a lot of numbers. But I think Florida State loses by 3 on the road. Give me probably low scoring. Why don't you give me Louisville 24-21?
21. So I don't think so. Tamara and Terry's not back yet, right?
I don't think so. They said a couple of weeks
right?
probably.
Yeah.
Hamza Nasruddin still out. Travis Jay is back. He's our returner, but it turns out we don't need him that much. We're blocking punts. So
yeah. But they did. I mean, Book is a mobile quarterback in Notre Dame. They held them to 12 points.
Yep.
But the fact that you only put up 7, with a Florida State defense that is starting to feel it now and figure it out, I just think they're going to be too much for them. I think now, because I will say that for Florida State, they have their issues on defense here and there, but they're winning the turnover battle a lot.
Yeah. Recently,
and I would even throw in the block punts and kicks. I mean, that's essentially a turnover. It stops them from scoring points. So I think that they ride that momentum just enough. Jordan Travis, Knowles win on the road.
Yeah, and the other thing is the history of this series is we lost really badly in 16 when they had Mr. Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, a lot of people did.
And then I can't remember 17 Jimbo's last year, but 18 and 19 we both win, but it was extremely close. 18 they just gave away a game to us. They had the lead, and then with less than 2 minutes left, they throw on 3rd down and we intercepted it, and then we go down and score. And Taggart looks like a hero at that point, but I'm like, Louisville's a pretty bad team. And then in 19, middle of the 4th quarter, Louisville's going down to score to take the lead, probably for good. And again, we get a pick at a fortunate time, then we go down and score, and then we end up adding one to win by like 10 or 11. So they can get us, and they've beat us on the road before, and I know that they've come close the last 2 seasons. So not only have they lost 3 in a row, maybe to us, or at least 2 in a row, they've lost 3 this season, and I know that they have the coaching to get back here. Okay. But I can't, in my right mind, take Florida State to win this game. I just think they're going to fall back off, and they're going to just redevelop some bad habits. Obviously, I hope I'm wrong. But I was also mad to see like Vegas was agreeing with me. I was like, darn it. I was going to be one to tell everybody this. And then the odds makers who get paid to do it obviously know something that everyone else can't see. Yeah.
Well, it depends on which Florida State team's going to show up. First half North Carolina or second half North Carolina.
Good point.
One guy you have to watch out for, Atwell, the receiver for Louisville. He's pretty dangerous. You get him away from Asante Samuel Jr., he can be a matchup nightmare for a lot of guys on defense. And I don't know how mobile Cunningham, the quarterback, is though. So that'd be interesting to see. Yeah. Yeah.
Tutu Atwell. He's also a threat. You're right. So as long as we can keep those guys in check, I think you got some hope there. But yeah, I'm not going to be surprised for Louisville to win this one.
Okay. We actually got some splits. Most of the season we've been picking the same, but this week you got a little bit of mix up there. I like it.
Cool. Well, you got the upset with their Jacksonville State, and you and I are going to pick South Florida to lose every game the rest of this year, I think.
Sure, this is
so
true.
There's no split there.
This is
well,
true.
Let's pull up the next one and see what happens.
All right.
2:00, just really weird start time. Tulane travels to UCF to play in Orlando. The Knights are a 20-point favorite. Tulane just keeps coming close and playing teams. What I've seen is they end up in really high-scoring affairs because their defense can't stop anyone, and that's a really bad time to have it when you're facing off against UCF, who just scored 50 and set school records. So, they've always played everyone close. They almost beat Navy this year.
Right.
They even had, I think, like a 3-touchdown lead at one point. Blew it. Let Navy come back and win 27-24, something weird. And I really thought last season they kind of turned some corners. I think they won 1 or 2 American games, but they're still in the bottom third. UCF, despite the 2 losses, still a big name in the conference, if not the biggest, still the team to beat. And I really think that UCF rebounds here. If I really thought Tulane had the talent, then I would not hesitate probably to take the green wave, but just too much UCF, and there's no way they can not come back and figure out some defensive stops. So I don't know about covering the spread because it's going to be a dogfight now. No one's really afraid of UCF right now in the American, and that's a bad sign.
Right.
So I'll take Tulane to cover, but I'll take UCF to win.
You stole my thunder. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Well, we're just
everything you said.
Same wavelength.
Everything you said basically is what I was going to say. So I'm not gonna ruin it because it was perfect. So
okay.
I'm just going to go with a ditto.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, I'll let you roll with the FAU Owls, assuming they play.
Yeah, that's the key. So this is FAU plays Marshall in a battle of 2 undefeated teams. FAU has 1 victory and 0 losses, and Marshall ranked Marshall team, 4-0. Assuming they play, Marshall hosts a well-rested FAU team. But I'm still going to go with Marshall. They beat App State earlier. They just seem like they got things going now. I mean, the spread is 17.5, so you just kind of have to go Marshall. FAU might put up a fight, but I think it's going to be the Herd at the end of the day.
Yeah, with the Owls, I agree with you. Marshall takes this one. Hey, no split on this game. But FAU we just still don't know what kind of team you have. You win a low-scoring game a couple weeks back. Marshall clearly clicking in offense. They beat Louisiana Tech, which is probably the best team they've had on the schedule so far. Not take that back, App State was. But Louisiana Tech's still middle of the conference, so a still pretty good win. And they figured out what they're doing.
All right.
And I think Thunder and Herd pretty comfortably here.
Yeah. All right, and then one more game. I believe it's one more game. The Hurricanes host Virginia Cavaliers. A Virginia team that a little bit of a drop-off from last year. 1-3. And the victor coming over Duke and Miami. They seem like they're starting to get back on the rolling track there. After that devastating loss to Clemson, they get back on track with victory over Pitt. I guess you're going to have to go Miami on this, and I don't think it's going to be close. Virginia just lost so many players from last year's team, and they're on a 3-game losing streak right now, so I'm going to go the Canes big at home.
Yeah, same here. I don't think there's much of a surprise. Virginia and Virginia Tech both getting a late start, having some COVID issues. Virginia's only win so far was a month ago against Duke. And I think Duke snuck out a win against Syracuse, but otherwise Virginia and Duke are probably the 2 worst teams in the conference right now. So Virginia just trying to fight to get 3-4 wins this season, but I don't think it happens here.
Yeah, I don't see them putting up much of a fight. Miami's got a little bit more confidence now. Canes big, I think.
I'm glad Florida State gets to play Virginia and Duke. That's how we end our season, by the way, our last 2 games.
Right.
So probably going to end on a 2-3 game win streak.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the rest of Florida State's schedule, it sets up pretty nice.
Yeah.
I think a lot of games that are winnable, which after the first week didn't look winnable. So, yeah, it does set up pretty nice.
Yep.
I think you got 1, 2, 3, 6 games left. I think 4 of those are winnable games.
Yeah, Pitt. I've been high on our chances to win that one all year long.
Yeah.
And that's after the weekend off for Halloween.
Yeah.
You lost Miami, which you thought you would. You lost Notre Dame, which you thought you would. You're going to lose Clemson. Yeah. And you're going to get NC State. Mixed bag, but they're like 4-1. They're having a good season. We kind of, like I said, I joked last week. We missed Boston College. She was having a really good year.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I could. It's not crazy to think you're gonna, end the season 5-1 on a 5-1. So, so yeah, that's good. I mean, how far they've come in the last few weeks.
Yeah.
From the end of that Miami game to now. So, and now you're looking at that schedule. Now you kind of understand a little bit more about you and a little bit more about the ACC.
Right.
It's looking pretty good.
Yep. I think winning against Louisville will be big. Like I said, I don't think it's going to happen, but I predicted 5-5. And I think I'm kind of on track to get there, given the UNC upset.
Right.
That helps a lot.
Okay. I think I said 7 victories.
Okay.
Which I guess you're on pace for that. Yeah. If you win those 5, you'll get 7. Okay.
How about that? We'll see. Yeah. Man. All right. Well, again, Chris, we'll get your games back soon. I promise.
Yeah.
I mean, think of it. We had the ACC start a couple weeks earlier, so this is not uncharted territory.
Yeah.
But you got the best team in the state. I don't think there's anything to argue about there. So at least you have that.
Yes.
So anyway, week 7. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up? And then if not, you can just tell people where they can reach out to us.
I don't think I have anything else. So please go to FloridaFocusPodcast.com. You can find all the episodes there, links to ways to reach us. Please give us some reviews. Let us know what you think. Let us know where we are wrong, where we are right. And if you are listening to us on any device that has a rating system, give us a rating, some feedback. It always helps with that. But we do appreciate you guys. But FloridaFocusPodcast.com.
Absolutely. Consider becoming a Patreon and contribute to the show. Patreon.com/FloridaFocusPodcast. And as we've discussed the last 2 weeks, please donate diapers to the Central Florida cause of helping families that are furloughed from the amusement park industry. But that is all I have. Anything else to add, Chris, before we sign off for this week?
I think that is it for me.
Awesome. Well, this is Brandon saying, go Noles.
Chris, go Gators.